Hello, boils and ghouls. Arif Blackstone here with another author interview. Today, my guest is J.H. Moncrieff, author of Shadow of the Sasquatch, Return to Dyatlov Pass, and many other books. Hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoy my chat with her. All right. So, J.H., thank you so much for being on. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So, you've got a new book out, Shadow of the Sashquatch, which is kind of a sequel to, what was it called? I even read it, Return to Dyatlov Pass.
Yes.
Okay, so first question I got to ask, because I really enjoyed Dyatlov Pass.
Oh,
No, I really did. All those sort of like those real mysteries that happen, and then reading a fictional idea of what could have been, oh, always good. Especially when it's a creature feature as well. That just adds to the awesomeness. So why that particular incident?
Oh, how honest do you want me to be with this, by the way? We probably should talk about that.
Well, if you want to give the bullshit answer and then and then give the real answer, it's fine. Either one works,
Well, this is true. This is absolutely true. I've always been fascinated in that mystery since I've heard about it. And I actually had someone tell me about it years ago saying, like, oh, I'm so lucky that people do that. They'll be like, oh, this is a mystery that you should hear about, or you should go to this creepy place next. Cause I go to a lot of these places, or I used to pre-COVID. I'd heard about it and I was just so intrigued about the case. It sounded really interesting. So that tweaked my imagination. But why I wrote about it was I contacted my editor at the publishing house and I said, I have two ideas, this one or this one. Which one do you want me to go with? And he said this one. So that's the could have been bullshitted answer that I'll be honest with, pulling back the curtain a bit.
It's always like that, isn't it? When it comes to, okay, why did you pick this? How did the stories come up? How you come up with the idea? It's usually very uninspiring and an anticlimactic.
Well, with that publisher, I've had other writers go like, how do your books do so well? My books aren't doing well. And the secret with that publisher is he knows his audience so well. You do exactly what he tells you to do. If you, what you need from me, Gary, and he'll say, sea monsters are working for us. I'm like, okay. And you write a sea monster book, it's going to do well. But if you come to him with a book that you came up with on your own that kind of sort of fits, but not really, but he likes you, so he'll take it, it's not going to do as well.
Oh yeah, no, he's done that with me where I wrote a book and I sent to him and he said, like it, but we're not going to publish it. This is what we want. And my latest as well, which is just giant bugs in Mexico. It's been selling gangbusters because Gary said, yeah, that's what we want. He specifically said to me, give us creature feature stuff, giant monsters. That's what's selling right now. He knows what his readers want.
He really does. I don't know how those books do as well as they do because I've never seen any marketing or anything, but they just like, I don't even worry about getting reviews for them because I know that once they're out for a month, I'll have more reviews on that than probably anything else. It's just like, not all of them good. He definitely has an audience that's very particular about what they like. And if you deviate from that, they're not happy. But I mean, that's part of the game, right?
Yes, definitely. So okay, that was Return to Dyatlov Pass. So what made you want to revisit the main character, Nat, with Shadow of the Sasquatch?
There's a show I love, absolutely love. They don't make it anymore, but it's called Paranormal Witness. It was on the Sci-Fi Network. I absolutely love that show. And they had a few shows that really got my imagination going about Sasquatch or something, these people in a house in Oregon and weird things happening and just really creepy. And so, of course, because Gary's into creatures, I started thinking along that way. And a lot of people want to know what happened to Nat at the end of Return to Dyatlov. And a lot of people wanted more of a continuation of their story or want to know what happened because I had one of my lovely open-ended, open to interpretation endings that the dude bros love so much. So it was just a good fit. She was still speaking to me, that character. So I just went with it.
Okay. So this is one of those cases where the muse just spoke and it came naturally.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
Okay.
Yeah, I was really worried about it though, because again, like everything I write, it's not your normal by the book creature feature. So when Hunter Shea read it and liked it, I was like, "Whew, really? Really? Are you sure? Did you really like it? Or are you just saying that because it's so, yeah, my stuff is not the norm."
That's what makes it, that's okay. Yes, it's not the norm when it comes to creature features, but it does work because it is different. Because you can pick up 4 different Sasquatch books. They're all going to be the same except for yours.
Oh, mine is definitely not the same.
Embrace it. Embrace the difference.
I'm waiting for the angry Dubros to come and say, "What you gave them a heart? What you gave like there's female characters with agency? What the hell are you doing in the genre?"
Oh, look, my very first book published with Severed was a zombie story set in Cuba, and the main character is a female James Bond.
Cool. Did you
Yeah.
take any heat?
Did I what? Sorry.
Take any heat from it?
The first review, the first review, and also this was my very first book. The first review was this, and I'll remember it ever. I'll remember it always. And it was this 1-star review, and it said, "Couldn't finish the book. Most condescending writer of all time." And I'm still trying to figure out what the hell they meant.
That's the worst with those, when you want to just go, "What do you mean? Why did you say that?" I had one for Return to Dyatlov Pass. It was 2 stars. It was like, "This is obviously written by a feminist," stopped at like 35%. And I took this as a compliment because I used to really struggle writing strong female characters. So it's like, okay, well, obviously I'm doing a good job because I'm offending people who don't like strong women now. That's cool. But yeah, just, you gotta laugh at those things.
Yeah, that's it. I think those sort of reviews, you have to laugh. If you take it seriously, you're going to give up. So why? Okay, you just said that you used to have trouble writing strong female characters. Forgive me if this sounds sarcastic, but I'm an Australian. Nearly everything I say sounds sarcastic. You're a woman. How could it be hard to write a female protagonist? I'm generally like.
Okay. Well, it wasn't hard to write a female, but it was hard to write a female that I respected and wanted to be friends with, because I was more comfortable writing from a male point of view. And that wasn't contrived. It would just naturally how I wrote. I always wrote from a male voice. And when you look at a lot of our media, especially when I was growing up, women weren't portrayed that well. Like, they were the sex objects, they were the, the damsels in distress, they were, and somewhere in my youth, I got kind of caught up in that whole screaming woman thing, where it's like, there was something romantic about that to me, about a woman needing to be saved and the guy coming in and saving her. And it was actually a reviewer who helped me, a reviewer who became a friend. I'd written Monsters in Our Wake, and it was the one book of mine she didn't give 5 stars. She didn't really like it as much because she couldn't relate to the female character. She said, just didn't understand her at all. And Flora is very, she's on a ship with a bunch of manly men, for lack of a better word, sailors, who don't really want her on there. And she's the biologist who's the first person to twig that, okay, there's something like these are teeth, like the drill snaps. They're an offshore drilling company. The drill is snapped. She knows their teeth marks. And so she's the first one to notice that, hey, I think there's actually something in the water doing this. So of course they're all calling her an idiot and, get off the boat, you're bad luck, all of that sailor stuff. And so to me, she actually really evolved as a character. She was quite meek and timid in the beginning, but she grew into her own. But this whole like not getting along with men very well, not really relating to them well, my reviewer friend just couldn't understand women like that. And it made me think, why am I not writing women that I would hang out with? Like, why don't I write women I'd look up to and respect and would hang out with? Not women who, have this. I think it's still good for them to be flawed and have a character arc, but Flora's a little pathetic at times, whereas Nat is not in the slightest pathetic. So, Yeah, it took me some work to realize, like, I didn't even realize I was doing it. I wasn't intentionally going in to write weaker women. I would just, it was sort of indoctrinated in
Yeah.
me, and I had to get out of that. I've also written, I used to write quite a bit about girl on girl crime, for lack of a better word, like women being very nasty to other women, which honestly I've experienced plenty of. But younger women, they don't seem to experience that quite as much. And they were really bothered by those things. They didn't understand why, there was so much hate, girl on girl crime, so much hatred towards from women to women in my books. And it's really made me think, what kind of role model do I want to be as a female author? What kind of image do I want to put out there? Instead of just writing whatever the hell I feel like, which I still do a bit, but I'm realizing I need to think about this more. I read books now, like the one I just finished. Her female protagonist picks apart every woman she sees, like every woman she sees. If it's a waitress, she's commenting on how her base is too heavy under her eyes, and so her dark circles like pink. And I'm like, who would even notice that? But it's almost like that's how, when women start out writing, that we quite often fall into that, where all the female characters our protagonists will mock the way they're dressed or have some sort of judgmental aside, whatever. And that's not putting out anything good into the world that I want to be a part of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it sounds like, that sounds very, for lack of a better term, bitchy.
Yeah. It is.
Okay, so now you write characters that you want to be friends with.
Yeah, or would look up to or would respect. I mean, Nat, I don't know that she'd make a good friend, but I sure as hell would respect her and be in awe of her. I don't know that she'd be a good buddy, but I'd probably be a little scared of her.
But sometimes being scared of your friends is good.
That I would not know. I'm probably the scary friend.
Okay. So you've got, I get the thing, you've got some stories to tell to back up that claim, but don't worry, this is a safe area.
Well, one thing I've noticed, I won't belabor this too much, but I'm on a true crime documentary series. And for the most part, when I hear from people, it's nice. The guys can get a little bit creepy. But for the most part, if I hear from people, it's nice. But if I ever make the mistake of reading comments, like on IMDb or YouTube, there have been a few from men that aren't very nice, but it's the women that just, will even come on my page and rip me apart because I was asked to wear the same outfit for every show for continuity. And they're just like, don't you have any other clothes? I'm going to do a style makeover on you. And I'm like, whoa, you don't even know me. This is how you're spending your time, like finding someone that's on this little like documentary series and ripping them apart for wearing the same jacket. And it's just, there's just so much nastiness in it. And I see that all the time. It's women attacking other women. So anything I can do to kind of not put that out there, even fictional women, anything I can do to not put more of that out there, the better.
That makes perfect sense. And nowadays it's more important than ever to kind of to put out those sort of, I don't want to say good vibes because that sounds a little wanky, but that sort of thing, to try to have that positive influence, even if it's on your readership. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So, okay, the documentary series. What is it, and how did you? Because I was doing a little bit of research about you before this, and I couldn't find anything on that. That was something. So now I'm curious.
Maybe that's a good thing. It's called Cruise Ship Killers.
Okay, love the title.
Yeah, and so basically, as you can probably guess, it's about people who've gone missing or been murdered on cruise ships. So my role, I'm called the writer expert. And if you've ever watched one of these documentary series, they usually have a writer giving commentary back and forth. So that's my role.
Okay.
For better or worse.
Well, I get the feeling that some days it's better and some days it's the worst.
The show itself is great. The fact that I've had to change my name on Facebook the fact that I get all these weird comments and proposals and hey, are you single? What color are your eyes? From guys I don't know.
Yeah.
A big one that I get, which I don't really understand, is you remind me of my wife. Okay.
Oh, I'm creeped out by that. even I'm creeped out by that for some reason.
Yeah, it's so I don't appreciate that fallout.
Yeah.
But actually working on the show, even though it's really hard, it's quite cool. It's really cool to get paid to talk about true crime.
Well, I suppose it's cool to get paid to do anything you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So you got started in journalism. So how did you migrate from, well, I get the thing, as I said, doing the research, I think you're still kind of in journalism while also writing your fiction, yeah?
Last year was the first year in a long time that I didn't write a single journalism article.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I won't return, but I think I might have finally, edged myself out of that career. But yeah, for a long time, I was a journalist.
Okay, so, probably a question you've been asked a lot, but how'd you get into it and why?
Well, I always wanted to be a novelist. From the time I was 5, I was writing books. I'm sure every author says that. So I was writing books very, very young. I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I was raised in a very practical family. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do to make ends meet while I'm becoming the great American novelist? Even though I'm Canadian, I knew being a great American novelist is where you can make a living. So like I said, very pragmatic. So I ended up getting into journalism because I knew I wanted to do some sort of writing job in the meantime. And I took a program that taught public relations, advertising, and journalism, majored in journalism, and ended up with a freelance journalism gig, which I didn't expect at all. I've since leapt into public relations and then into marketing, then back into journalism. And now I teach all of that stuff on the side. But the dream is, has always been, will always be, full-time writer.
Okay, so then what made you decide to take the leap into writing novels? If you were doing okay with the journalism and being from a very pragmatic family, as you said, what was the driving factor that made you go, screw it, I'm going to put something out in the world like this?
That was always the dream. It was always what I wanted to do. Journalism, even though I was good at it, I think it was a big plan B, right? So that tends to happen to me. I'll have these plan Bs and then my plan B becomes my plan A. Like all of a sudden I'm living plan B. I'm like, wait a minute, this was supposed to be a side gig. What the hell? So I just kept trying. I just kept trying to get an agent. I kept putting stuff out there. I kept trying to write books. It was really hard when I was a journalist because I was writing all the time.
Yeah.
When I got into public relations, I would get up hours before I started work, even though I am not a morning person at all. And a funny story that I don't tell too many people. I've never told a recorded interview before.
Okay.
I actually had a picture on my ceiling of my CEO at that job. So when my alarm went off and I really didn't want to get up, the first thing I would see when I opened my eyes was her face. I go, ah! And I would think, if I don't get up and write this book, I'm going to be working for that woman for the rest of my life. And it would get me up and I would write. So whatever works.
That's a great motivator right there.
It really was. I have worked for some interesting people. You want to talk scary?
Okay. And I admit I've not read it because I've read more your creature feature stuff, but your Ghostwriter series of books, I was reading about them, and well, I was reading the Amazon description. Okay. As I said, I gravitate more towards pulpy B grade awesomeness. That's the thing for me. But where'd the idea for your Ghostwriter series come from? I'm kind of curious about that.
Those are what I call my heart books. Those are the books I love the most, that are the closest to me that I've published. I was in China. I was on a trip to China, and it was a miserable day, pouring rain,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sick. I was sick with a cold. And there was an optional field trip that you could get off. We were on a boat very briefly. I don't go on cruises. But we were on a very brief cruise on the Yangtze River that was part of this trip. And there was a brief stop that you could do a day trip to this ghost city. And I really didn't feel good, but I thought, you know what? I don't have an idea yet. I really want to write a book set in China. I don't have an idea yet. And so I got off the boat, did this trip, even though I was just miserable, just miserable. And there was just something about that place, the atmosphere about this place. And I thought, what if someone got stuck overnight here? And then I thought, what if they wanted to get stuck overnight here? And that became City of Ghosts.
Okay.
And I honestly thought it was going to be one book, but I had a friend in the horror writing industry. He read it and he said, you know, this would be a much better book if it was from this other character's point of view. And I thought, there's no way in hell I'm rewriting the entire book from that character's point of view, but I could give her her own book. And that's kind of where it started taking off. But I never intended to write a series or make it a series or anything of the sort.
That's the best kind of series to have, one that is unintentional, because it is not only is it a surprise for the readers, it's a surprise for you.
Yeah, big surprise for me.
But a happy one, though.
Yeah, and I've gotten to travel all over the world too. I would have anyways, but this really pushes me to go to the most haunted, creepiest places in the world to write these books. So that's been a really neat thing too.
Okay, so if you ever make it to Mexico, the city of Guanajuato, the one I told you about, you can go, and they've got a museum, and it's got the Mummies of Guanajuato.
Ooh.
So these are, when I say mummies, they're not like the Egyptian mummies. These are people from like the 1900s, 1800s, who got trapped in, because Guanajuato is built on mines. So before they closed the mines, they would have cave-ins, and these people would basically get preserved. So you go in, and they're standing upright in these glass cases. It's like going into a museum of all these dead bodies, and it's the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
I'm so there.
Yeah, you'll see even dead baby mummies. Yeah, like this is like, yeah, you get. I first walked in, and there's no preamble. They don't set anything up. There's nothing like to warn you. You just walk in, first thing, run right there. It's like, jeez. And you go around, and I've been there once. I took a ton of photos. That's the thing. I took a ton of photos when I went, but I'm walking around, and I got used to seeing these mummies. Then I ran into the corner, and there was a little cabinet filled with about 6 or 7 dead baby mummies. I just went, oh, that's so creepy. No. I can handle the human, the big mummies, but not the baby mummies. That's just wrong.
It was like that in Pompeii. They've done casts of the bodies there because as soon as they tried to take the body out, it just dissolved into ash, right? Or disintegrated rather. So they've done casts. So there's infants and dogs and and you'll still see people there taking selfies. Like it's a great old time. It's like, this is a hollowed place of death, you know?
Well, see, for me, this is the case. I technically didn't take the photos. I had the photos, but my at the time girlfriend, she was my girlfriend at the time. She was taking the photos because I was too big of a coward. Because Mexico has a very strange relationship with death. It's very much like they're friends in a way. So, for a horror writer, it's fantastic. But so she's taking the photos, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if she was doing it on purpose or just to mess with me, but she started talking to the bodies. She started, because some of them, they look peaceful and serene. Others, their faces are contorted into a death scream and things like that. So, and she starts going, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just taking a photo because my coward of a boyfriend won't do it himself. He's from Australia. You probably understand. Stuff like, I'm like, don't talk to the body. Let's just get out of here as soon as we can. So if you come here, go there. You can go and see. And these are, unlike Pompeii where it's cast, these are the original dead bodies as well. So it's like 100% real, creepy as hell. Mexico's great for inspiration if you want haunting and creepy places.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Even the places I was looking at to move, they seem to have lots of haunted
Oh yeah,
areas.
oh yeah. Mexico is steeped in superstition. Like a area near where I live called Coyoacan. They have a street, and literally the legend says if you go to the street, there's a house that's got red gates. You stand at those red gates at midnight on a specific date. The devil will arrive and grant you a wish.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now that's the only story I've ever heard where it's that sort of thing, not involving a crossroads.
Wow, you're gonna have a great talk with V Castro when she's on.
Yeah, I can't wait to. That's going to be a good one. I've still got to message her. I've got a big list of authors. So, what made you gravitate towards the supernatural, the creepy, the dark side of life for your writing?
I always liked it. Even as a child, I was always drawn to the taboo, right? Oh, you don't eat that, it'll give you nightmares. For some reason, I was always drawn to it. But the big reason is I had a writing teacher in high school who hated what he called Disney endings, absolutely hated them. And he was like a mentor to me, and I so want to impress him and make him please him, basically. And the easiest way to write a story without a happy ending is horror. It was the easiest way. And what I love about this genre is the ending isn't foretold. Like with a thriller, you know that the hero is going to survive because it's a conceit of that genre. You can't break that. You know, in a suspense, the hero is probably going to survive. You know, in a romance, they're going to have a happily ever after or a happily for now. But with horror, there's no such guarantee. You can't be sure what's going to happen at the end of the book, which is why I love it so much, because it's the only genre that you really don't know for sure. That it's totally really is a mystery. It's a true mystery. Mystery books, mystery's always going to get solved, right? It has to. So yeah, that's what I love about writing in this genre, even though I don't consider myself a horror writer per se, because I write so many different things. That's what I love about it.
Okay. And so not knowing the unpredictability of the ending is what makes it fun for you.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Very much so. Because how can you truly hold a reader in suspense if they know everything's going to work out at the end? Yeah. Even if it's a really suspenseful book, they've got that, oh, but I know it's going to be okay. So I can put the book down and go to sleep because I know they're going to be fine. Even though it doesn't seem like they're going to be fine, I know they will be. And sometimes to make everything be fine, it's very contrived, right? Like how many times have you read a book and the end is just kind of like, really, that's it? The one I finished reading today, it's like there's this huge buildup. It's a 1,000-year-old vampire. This is a suspense, not a horror. 1,000-year-old vampire. We go into like how powerful this woman is and how she just eats worlds and the whole thing. And it's like when it comes time to do away with her, it's like she's stabbed and that's it pretty much. I'm like, really? I kept waiting for her to come back or something. I'm like, that can't be. It couldn't have been that easy. We've gone through this whole book with this big buildup about like, you can't kill this woman. And then it's like, that's it. Like that's how all vampires are killed pretty much. The off with the head and the stabbing through the heart thing. It's like, that's it? Really?
Damn, that's okay. That's anticlimactic.
Very, very much so. So yeah, I find that a lot sometimes with thrillers is they build it up really good, but they've got to resolve everything. So then quite often the ending isn't that satisfying because they have to, well, I've made this great impossible villain, but now they have to be a really weak pansy for my hero to best them in the last 5 pages,
Oh yeah, no, that's a problem not just with thrillers. That's a problem with a lot of stories, especially nowadays where you get those awesome villains and they go out like bitches.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like my go-to example is Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but I'm going with you.
Okay, so it's a Quentin Tarantino World War II movie. Okay. So being Tarantino, completely unpredictable. It's been out for a while, so for everyone else watching, they know what I'm talking about. But this character is a Gestapo officer, and he's introduced, and he's basically like the Sherlock Holmes of Nazis. You know, he's suave, he's sophisticated, smart as, you know, he can figure everything out. But in the end, he does go down like a little bitch. What the heroes do to capture him and all that, you just sit there going, oh, come on. Because in reality, he would actually win.
Exactly. They're just so many things have to be squished to fit every story into that neat little box. But man, a lot of readers get upset if you don't. They want resolution. They want everything tied up. They want a happy ending. And it's like, I'm sorry, horror. I don't have to give you one.
Yeah, that never thought about it like that. But yeah, you're right. That's actually one of the best things about writing horror. It does give you that freedom to pardon the language, but to fuck with the audience.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, look at Stephen King, how many times he'll just kill off his best characters. You're like, what? Wait.
Yep. Oh yeah.
How can he die?
I hate Stephen King. Successful bastard. He's probably watching. He'll probably be watching this particular episode. So you know, I've just killed any chance of him being on.
We're giving you a blurb.
Yeah, there are other authors I'd rather get blurbs from than him, but
yeah, I find if you give a bit too many blurbs, after a while, people don't trust them anymore.
I've done one. I've given one, and that was for another Severed Press author. That was for Lucas Peterson with his story Clink Clusterfuck, because I beta read it, loved it, and said, "Dude, it's this. You can use that."
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, I'm happy to give blurbs. You know, just no one asks me. I think it's because I'm not well known enough.
Well, be careful. Be careful what you wish for, because yeah, you could be inundated with blurb requests.
Well, then I'll figure out a system. You know, is it someone I know? Then they get priority. If it's someone I don't know, is it? You know, then I'll figure out a sliding scale. That just went off on a little tangent. So, how important are the tropes of, you know, when you write, how important are tropes or cliches for you to ignore? Or, you know, like, as you said, with horror, the unpredictability of it is great. But with certain stories, like with creature features and certain things, so there are those beats you do kind of have to hit.
I probably don't. I probably don't, because I'm going to be totally honest. I'm not a creature feature fan. I don't read a lot of horror. I do read some, but that's not normally my go-to. So the way my process works is quite weird, but it's almost like my characters tell the story and I just go with them. Like I don't try and control what they do. I don't outline. It's basically like the real people telling me their story and I follow along, and I have no idea how the damn thing's going to end until they tell me, which can get really nerve-wracking in the middle, but it always works out. So I'm not what's the right word? I'm not consciously thinking of craft when I'm writing a story. I'm organically telling a story, if that makes sense. I'm not a writer that's like, oh, on page 204, we have to hit the climax. And then, you know, now everything steamrolls downhill and on page, I'm not that kind of writer at all. So tropes. Usually with my books, especially the Ghostwriters, but even with this one, Shadow of the Sasquatch, I get so screwed. Basically, I get close to the end, and I have no idea. Especially now, especially the Ghostwriters books, they get more and more complicated, every single one. This next one, it's all about the fate of the very world is at stake. So I'm like, oh boy, that's gonna be a fun one. Glad I painted myself into that corner. So I basically, if I figure out the ending, I'm happy. You know, I have to figure out the ending, and it can't be anything I've heard of before or seen before or something that's not contrived, but it never is, because I'm so stumped when I get to that point that I have no idea how the darn thing's going to end. But tropes, I mean, I couldn't even tell you what a trope is.
Okay. Oh wow,
which is terrible. Probably that's probably terrible. I'll probably get drummed out of
no
Union if there was such a thing.
No, actually, that's really good for you though. That's actually a fantastic thing, because when you know what the horror tropes are and those sort of beats when it comes to certain styles of horror stories you're writing, it actually takes a lot of effort not to use them or not to accidentally have them in. So not knowing them at all, you have an edge over everyone else.
Well, I probably do some, like the restoration has the whole imaginary friend who's not really an imaginary
Yeah.
friend in the haunted house. So that's probably a trope. But it remains so creepy. Like I love haunted house stories. I love the whole, everyone thinks the kid is crazy, but the kid is the only one that knows what's going on. I love that. My first book that was published was probably a trope because it was the whole haunted toy or cursed toy thing.
Yeah, what
I'm sure that's a trope.
the teddy bear who wouldn't leave?
The bear who
Yeah.
wouldn't leave. Very close. Very close. So that was probably a trope. I'm just not one of those people that's consciously aware.
Okay. Yep. So
Probably makes me sound like an idiot, but that's cool.
you're talking to me. Don't worry. I'll probably say something that's going to eliminate your idiot factor, and I'll take over. Don't worry. Happens all the time. So relax. And this is going to go on the internet forever.
Nothing can be worse than the fact that I wore the same jacket for the first season of Cruise Ship Killers. So no one will care that I sound like an idiot, because what matters is what I wear.
I do admit, I don't envy that.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I actually had to like make them change their show for the second season and go, please, can I wear more than one thing? Because you don't understand the grief I'm getting from this. And they were like, well, I guess so. You can wear two things. I'm like, oh boy.
So then possibly by the 5th or 6th season, you can have 4.
Maybe if they do that many.
That's the dream.
They run out of cruise ship killings, right? Eventually they'll run out of.
Well, I mean, do they look at modern cruise ship killings, or there's probably a history, a sordid history of cruise ship killings that they probably could dive into.
They do both. They've done some
Okay.
historical, but when they do historical, they modernize them because it's cheaper, right? Than having to recreate having everyone in the costumes and all the props.
Yep.
And so they'll modernize it, but yeah, it's well, who knows? Maybe there'll be a big onslaught when we get back into travel again.
Maybe.
But that is the concern, is how many more of these seasons can we do when it's so narrow, right? Just
true. Well, unless one of the producers decides to hire someone to go out and actually do cruise ship killings so they've got that could happen.
There's a novel idea right there.
Feel free to use it. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done the Titanic. That's the highest cruise ship number of murders ever.
True. Maybe they feel it's been done.
Yeah, you can't beat James Cameron.
Yeah, can you imagine? The Titanic on a low budget.
Little cardboard cutout ship. But you modernize it, Yeah. You call it Titanic Part 2. Now it's personal. So you don't outline your books. Okay. Because I was going.
I'm a dreaded pantser.
I used to be a pantser. Then I became a plotter. But my plots are very much one line per chapter. So I still have that element of surprise.
I've been I'll go to writing conferences and they'll have me on panels. And they're like, oh, will you be on this? Oh, whoops, I just outed myself. Oh, well. They'll say, would you be on this panel that's pantsers versus outliners? And I'm like, sure. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. And I'll go and I'll be the only pantser. And they treat me like the freak in the room, right? And it's so interesting that all the outliners will say what pantsers can and cannot do. I find that so interesting. I'm like, you're not a pantser. How do you know? I just find that so interesting. Like, you can't pants a series. I'm like, really? Whoops.
This is the proof I can.
You can't pants a mystery. I'm like, whoops.
So you're breaking all the rules.
I guess, but how do outliners know what our rules are? Like, I have nothing against outlining. I'm always big on whatever your process is, you need to
Yep.
find out what that is and work with your process, not what some other writer tells you you should do. But I find it funny that we're just treated as like not real authors or yeah, it's just really weird to me. Like, why does it matter how someone writes? It's like,
Well, having done both, and when I used to pants, I got started back in Australia writing movie scripts. So I pantsed movie scripts, and I'm talking about, it feature length scripts are like 90 pages to 120 pages, which is equal to 30-minute movie or a 2-hour movie, that sort of thing. So I pantsed that. For some reason, running prose, I needed to outline. So having done both, I think the reason outliners kind of say, it's because they can't believe someone could just sit there and write a 200, 300 page book without a plan. I think it's more the fact they just sit there and go, that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. I think it's more that.
I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but for me, if I know the ending, if I know how it's going to go, it's like I've told the story already. I'm bored. I have no urge to write it then. I find out by writing. So it keeps it interesting.
See, when I do my outlines, I do a fake ending. I write an ending. I go, I know maybe out of say 5 books, 1 book I'll follow the actual ending, but the rest I will always deviate from what I plan. So yeah, I get that. I get that because if I know authors who do, like their outline is like, the length of a book basically.
Yeah, or longer.
Yeah, and I actually have tried doing these epic outlines, and for me, I go, well, I don't want to write it now. I'm done. I was talking to Jake Bible the other day for another interview, and his thing is keeping it simple. Whether it's your idea, if you're going to outline, keep the outline simple. That way, it's easier to write.
Yes, I could see that.
Which, and in Australia, we're taught in schools the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Which for me, that I've got that on a piece of paper type, just above my monitor here. So, if I start getting too complicated with stories, there it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, whatever works for the individual author. So I don't know if you've been asked about this. And if so, forgive me. If not, awesome. The Insecure Writers Support Group.
No, never been asked about that ever.
Okay. Because I've been reading it. So I haven't gone all the way back to the very beginning though. So the title is great. What made you decide to have that title and just to do that sort of thing?
Okay, well, the Insecure Writers Support Group was originated by a fellow named Alex Kavanaugh. So he gets full credit. It's his name. It's his group. And it's a blog hop. So everybody can write on the first Wednesday of the month. Everybody writes a post about, it can even be triumphs you've had as an author, something you've learned. But a lot of the times it is, I'm feeling really insecure about fill in the blank, whatever happens to be that month. And we all, as part of that group, the idea is somebody comments on your post, you're supposed to then go comment on theirs.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I went into that group is I had a blog and a friend of mine had a blog and she was getting all these comments all the time. She had tons of engagement. And I was like, I want some of that. And it was the Insecure Writers Support Group. Like, they're amazing if you want a blog audience. They're amazing at commenting, at sharing your stuff, at reading your books. Like, I've met so many really good readers through that group. So I did that right up until just recently when it got to the point that I was spending so many hours responding to comments and visiting people's blogs and responding on their blog that I wasn't, my writing time was getting sucked up with responding to blog comments. So I'm unfortunately for now had to step down and not participate anymore, but they're a great group for anyone who's interested. They have a Facebook group and that too, and a Twitter page and a website, like all sorts of topics and things. And
Okay, I might check them out. Okay, cool. So okay, you said something that I've noticed, and it does seem to be a problem, that whole thing of, okay, being engaged with the community and that cutting into your writing time. So how do you find the balance between, writing, creating, and being out there?
well, this is an unpopular opinion. But after years of striving for this mythical thing called balance, I don't think it actually exists.
Okay.
I think that depending on whatever time of your life you happen to be in, there's always going to be something that you're more focused on. Like, for instance, when I've got to get a book done, I have to let the housekeeping go to a certain extent, right? And just not worry about it. Let the laundry go, not worry about it. And focus on getting that book done. When teaching's really hectic and I have a ton of marking to do, unfortunately, that's got to take precedence. My students are going to know if I didn't get their marks in, I don't get paid unless I get their marks in, right? It's got to take precedence. When I had a journalism deadline, same thing. So what I try and do is shuffle. I try and do circuits, hour for teaching, hour for marketing, hour for writing, hour for exercise, and repeat. And I try and do that as much as I can, but it's never going to be perfect. I'm always going to feel like there's some area of my life that I didn't do well that day or whatever. And I've kind of needed to let that go because I've just realized, A, there's only so many hours in a day. B, no one's perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. And C, it's not all about producing all the time, right? Like, what about our relationships? What about downtime? What about reading? But I did notice with that blog, I had to look and say, okay, what am I really getting out of this? And is it worth the hours and hours and hours of time I'm spending? Because a lot of people on there are amazing and they've become friends, but some people just go on your blog and go, hey, yeah, cool. So they'll get a response. So they'll get a comment on their blog. Or there were people that just, we really had, like, they would come on my blog and go, oh, I don't read those kind of books. I'm like, why are you reading my blog? Or they're writing poetry in that, and poetry is great, but I know it's modern poetry isn't something I'm an expert in or have an affinity for. So it always felt fraudulent for me to be going on all these poetry websites and trying to come up with something insightful to say for everyone. So I just realized that maybe wasn't the best use of my time, kind of, sort of. I mean, some of it definitely was, but I noticed that the big fish that have big books out and are still blogging, they never visit other people's blogs. They never respond to their comments unless someone's really pissed them off. And I don't think necessarily that's the right way either, but I totally understand why, right? You just have to make a choice at some point. Same with the blurbs. So the same people I've seen say, I don't, unless you came through my agent, I'm sorry, I can't give you a blurb because I'm inundated with requests. I think after a while, you just have to set those boundaries or you're not going to have time to live, let alone have time to write. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's what I've come up with.
I'll be honest, it's a different answer to what I've been told, which is good. It's always, if everyone says the exact same thing, it gets a bit boring. So having the opposite side of the coin is fantastic. So, I was talking with Lee about this, about having your tribe amongst the author community. Is that something that you focus on as well? Is that important for you, or is it also part of that thing of you give it a specific amount of time and then move on?
It's really important for me to keep in touch with anybody that I care about and have a good association with. But, and I'm sure Lee would be the same because I know Lee and she's amazing. People who want to be in friends with you or associated with you because they think you can do something for them or they think you can help them in some way. I don't do that. I won't be friends with anybody unless I am genuinely friends with them. I've been at big writers conferences before and I've had acquaintances go, oh, so-and-so a good person to be friends with? So-and-so a good person that could help me out? Or, are they a good person for my career? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like the dude. Like, I don't know if I don't have any, big plot going on in the background. It's like, if I like you, I like you. So as far as being a writer tribe, for sure, but it's all got to be genuine. It's important, but I don't like these people because they also write, or they also write my genre. I like them for who they are, for sure. But I got so lucky. My first publisher, I was introduced to a lot of writers at that publisher, and they were freaking amazing. And I'm still in touch with them. And it's important to me, even though I sometimes fall off the constant emails and that, I'm always dropping that ball. I try my best to pick it up again because they're really important to me. People like Hunter Shea and Russell James, and like there were just so many good, amazing people in that publishing house, and I'm so glad I met them, and because they're awesome people, not because I'm like, what can JG Faraday do for my career? It's just, he's just an awesome guy, right? And I say guys, I mean, there was Catherine Cavendish and Summer Canyon and that, but for the most part, it was the dudes for the most part.
Well, horror, like let's say dark fiction, it is more of it used to be a boys' club, but I mean, now you look at, you've got yourself, there's Lee V. Castro, the Sisters of Slaughter, Summer Cannon. There are, it's the boys' club is being expanded to be extremely more diverse. Can't believe I haven't really spoken about this with anyone yet. How is that? How is that? Being a part of this, I don't want to say movement, but just the evolution of the genre. Let's say that, the evolution.
Well, remember when I said I had a problem writing strong female characters?
Yes.
I was also one of those. In Canada, we call it a douche canoe. I was also one of the douche canoes who, when I heard about women in horror month, and women aren't getting the love and that, I was like, oh, it's, I blamed us. I thought, well, you're not marketing right. You're not, you're dressing up like a witch whenever you go to a conference. Like there was one big incident that blew up where someone referred to female horror writers as hags, and and there was a big backlash to it, and rightly so. But a lot, you saw a lot of people feeling like they couldn't just be themselves. They had to dress up in these big costumes, and fair enough, go for it. But I always thought, when I first started hearing this stuff, I thought, oh, that's so wrong. That's, it's like, if there's a good female horror writer, she's going to, make a name for herself. But then when I got into the genre and I started publishing, I noticed something. And it was like, I had all these guys that I was friends with, and they're wonderful people from my publishing house. We became friends. But I noticed that when it came time, like Women in Horror Month, they were great about that. They promoted us all. They knew that there was more of the Mary Shelley and Anne Rice, which, that Shirley Jackson, that drives me nuts. It's like, come on, like, can we pick someone who's alive in addition to Anne Rice? So they were great for Women in Horror Month, but as soon as like an award came up, or just someone saying, hey, who should I read in this genre, or a anthology call, they forgot about us.
Really?
They forgot about us. And I know these guys. I knew it wasn't deliberate. I knew it wasn't that they were being sexist. They're not sexist as much as you can control that. We weren't top of mind. They just didn't think about us. They thought about, if someone asks, who's your favorite horror writer? You're going to get Stephen King or Dean Koontz, right? Like, they just don't think about us. So then my eyes were opened. I was hopefully no longer a douche canoe. And I realized this is actually a problem. Like, this is actually a thing. Like, it's not just women going like, me, like, give us more. I'm like, this is actually legitimate. This is actually a problem. And it's even worse for female writers of color, right? Like, they've got, they've got an even bigger ladder to climb. And it's so unfair. So what do I feel about being in this movement? Well, example, I recently had a male fan contact me because he went to Waterstone's bookstore, which I understand is quite a big bookstore, book chain in the UK. And he asked about one of my books, and the woman at the till told him that women don't write horror. she said only 3 women have ever written horror. And amazingly, she didn't pick Shelley, Jackson, or Rice. So I'll give her that. I'll give her brownie points for that.
Okay.
I've never heard of the 3 women she did pick, but good for her for picking ones that are breathing. But it's still happening. It's still happening.
Yeah.
And I really honestly don't know what we can do about it other than keep marketing, keep being involved with things like this, keep producing good work. And just how does anybody, right? How does anybody break into something?
Yeah.
But it's yeah, I definitely was guilty though of being a part of the problem, I think, because I didn't know that it was a problem. I thought like, oh, people are just, yeah, they're just bitching a bitch. Everybody's got to have a problem with something. And yeah, no, it's real. So I've even had male reviewer friends who will always be like, J.H. Moncrieff is my favorite female writer. And I'll be like, why female? Like,
Yeah.
is that separate? Does it have to be a separate category because of my genitalia makes me a different type of writer? Like, can it not just be I'm one of your favorite authors, period? Like, why does there have to be that, like, Faye is my favorite Black female author, like, why does there need to be these labels, right? And I think it's just a matter of educating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the way I was raised, it was this: don't care what your sex is, don't care what you believe in, don't care who you follow, don't care who you want to fuck. Just don't force it on me. You do you, I'll do me, we'll get along fine. So for me, the only reason I would distinguish whether or not, between a guy and a girl is this: is he an asshole? Is she a bitch? That's the only reason. When it comes to this, I don't refer to, as, you, Lee Murray, V. Castro, Sister Slaughter, Mary San Giovanni, you name it. You're authors. You're not women authors. You're not Latin American authors. You're none of that. You're just an author.
Which is great. But, some people will say, like, I teach this diversity in writing class where I force people to go look at their bookshelves and see, do you have any books that are written by someone from a different race? Do you have any books that are written by someone from a different gender? Because like you said, the old boys club, even if people think that isn't affecting their choices, it often is. Like, it often is without you even realizing it. And with me too. I mean, I love what used to be called African American fiction, which is crazy. Like, again, like, why should that be its own genre, right? It's good books. But I definitely had diversity in my reading that way. But when it came to horror, it was all about the white dudes.
Yep.
It was all about the white dudes, right? So just even that awareness, just even taking a step back and just making sure, because we're normally not promoted the same way. We're normally not pushed the same way. And until that changes, you're going to have to dig just a little bit, like that fellow did when he went to Waterstones and asked and kept insisting, no, I was an actual person. I did exist and I did have books. And, instead of taking that woman's first response and saying, oh, well, yeah, I must have made her up then. Thanks. Terrible customer service.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, I mean, back in Australia, I worked, before I moved here, I worked in retail. So yeah, I know all about customer service, and that's honestly not how you do it.
No. You must be crazy wanting a book like that. That doesn't even exist. It's like, oh yeah, promotion right there. But yeah, so to go back to your original question, how I feel it's a responsibility for all of us to do the absolute best work we can and to promote it and put it out there, and not in a gauche kind of ridiculous way, but in a good way. And just keep doing our best, but being vocal, being seen. Women traditionally, we've been taught to be modest and quiet, and assertive women are bitches, and so it takes a while to unlearn all of that societal training, right?
Well, what you just said just then about, women should be quiet, any who are assertive are bitches. Mexico. That's the mentality in Mexico.
Really?
100. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is changing, but you'll find majority of it. Most Mexican males have this mentality of it because it is still a patriarchal society. Unfortunately, most of the older males in Mexico generally have a bit of that mentality of women should be seen and not heard. They pop out the babies, they do the cooking. It is changing, but like anyone over the age of like 50, male over the 50, yeah, they're going to have that pretty bad.
Oh boy, they're gonna love me. That's right.
Well, see,
But I mean, honestly, Canada's still a patriarchal society too. I mean, you're hard pressed to find one that isn't.
well, true, but when I say patriarchal, I'm talking about more like 1950s American mentality of, that sort of thing, where, men don't talk about their feelings. And if your woman gets out of line, you give her a little slap. It's that sort of thing.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Sean Connery school of
Yes. Oh, I wish I thought of that. Yes, but yes, you're absolutely right. But see, here's the great thing. You're going to be, if you come to Mexico, you're exotic and you will be treated better than a regular Mexican woman because of that. Because you are,
though. That'll break my heart.
it's something you have to get used to. And I mean, this is 100% true. The first time I visited Mexico was in 2014. And, I came here and the beard was about this much bigger. So beards are, they're not really a big thing in Mexico. Mexican men seem sometimes to have trouble growing them. They can do mustaches and goatees, but not the impressive thing. So I was at a shopping center and this little kid came up, he had to be maybe 5 or 6 years old. He's just, he's never seen this in his life. And he's just, and the mum comes up, but not saying a word, because obviously can tell I'm a foreigner. She's got her phone like this, like, can I take a photo with you? Can my son take a photo with you? And I was like, making sure this is not candid camera or any shit like that. And I was like, okay, took a photo of the kid. They gave me 10 pesos, so like $1.
Wow, you're famous.
It's that sort of thing where, like, I've been here almost 5 years now, and I still get certain people, like usually kids or maybe tween girls, will look at me like, "What the hell is that thing?" It's a Viking. I've actually had people, like random strangers, call out to me, Viking, things like that. So it's a very surreal feeling. You do get special treatments, and that is something you have to get used to. But one of the strangest things I've seen is one of the big bookshop chains here is called Gandhi, and it's great. They've got all the sections: philosophy, psychiatry, history, Mexican history, Latin America history, the rest history. They call it universal history. Then they have fiction books all broken up into their sections. Then you get just general Latin American fiction, and then you get universal fiction, and then you get English fiction.
Ooh.
So I saw that. I was like, what's universal? What's the difference between universal and fiction and English fiction? English fiction is just literally the English language version of, so Stephen King, Dean Koontz, all the big boys you would find, all the, Twilight, all that stuff. And then universal fiction is basically books from any other country not speaking English that's been translated in Spanish. Europe, Asia. So that's a really interesting way of looking at literature here.
Yes. It is really cool though.
Yeah, you will not find a lot of horror books in Mexico though. They don't read horror here a lot, except for Stephen King and Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft.
Well, they have their own, from the sounds of it. They've got their own ghost stories.
Well, that's the thing. I used to give class at Penguin Random House here, and the head editor, who was my student, we were talking about horror, and he said to me, "Horror doesn't sell in Mexico unless you're Stephen King." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "You've heard of the cartels?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's why. You've heard of the poverty? Yeah. The corruption in the government? Yep. They live horror." So why would they want to read it? And I just kind of went, okay, so basically, if you're a horror writer, chances are, unless you're Stephen King, you will not crack the market in Mexico.
It needs to be more happily ever after horror for Mexico.
Yes, the ending has to be more predictable, more like a thriller.
Wow. It blows my mind. And I sometimes wonder what it's like to be Stephen King and know that you single-handedly have defined an entire genre and no one else has done that. I don't think there's any other genre that's one person.
No. Maybe back in the 30s, 40s, it was Tolkien with fantasy, but not now.
No.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's so synonymous. You can't separate him from the genre at all. And it's just like, what is that like? Like, how does he just go through the world doing normal things? Because that's, when you read about his origins and he's, a poor kid raised by a single mom who, really it didn't look like it was going to go anywhere. And it took a long time to go somewhere, just where he is now. It must just be the most surreal thing ever sometimes.
Yeah, and honestly, that's life though. Life is surreal.
Yeah, true. As we live in a pandemic, a global pandemic that if you were in the science community, didn't see coming until it was too late.
Oh yes. So is that your goal? Do you want to be the female version of Stephen King?
Sure. Hell yeah.
Get some of that Stephen King money.
Although I will say, based on my experience with cruise ship killers, I'm done when I was a kid, I'm like, yeah, I want to be rich and famous. I do not want the fame. I do not want the fame part anymore. My little tiny taste of it. Yeah, no. So Stephen King female version, but nobody really knows what I look like. Like back in the good old days where nobody really knew what you look like. That'd be awesome.
I can blur your face out if you want and digitally change your voice, like you're like on one of those, silent witness kind of programs, like you're a witness for a criminal killing. Yeah, I can do all that for you if you want.
Sure, perfect. Yeah, but that sort of longevity and following and impact and like just think how many people's lives you could impact if you had that kind of reach.
Oh yeah,
for good and for bad, right?
Oh definitely. And I mean, most of the authors my age, they say, oh yeah, Stephen King, he inspired me to write. That's got to be it. I'm pretty sure his day-to-day life is probably pretty normal and boring, but when he's out in public, it's probably the surrealist thing. But knowing, these other authors look up to you, put him on the pedestal and like, oh, that's got to give you some ego.
Well, I was a true story back when Facebook first started. And so he didn't know any better. He was on Facebook. Like he himself was actually on Facebook, and I was Facebook friends with him for a shining moment. So I jumped in and I took the chance of like sending like the fangirl, like you inspired me, blah, 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 email or message, not knowing if he would see it or if it was really him or whatever. And he responded I knew right away it was him because it was so self-deprecating and so, well, I don't know about that. And so I took a chance and I asked him a question. And this was when I was, I was working in public relations. I was doing journalism stories at night. I was really having a hard time fitting in fiction. So I asked him, what do I do here? And his answer was, and I was so angry, his answer was write more.
Okay.
More. And I stepped back from that and was like, oh, great, thanks, write more. That's my problem. I don't have more time to write. But as time has gone on, I realized how perfect an answer that was. He's like, write more, write small projects, write poetry, just write more. And I thought, oh, great, great, thanks, great advice. I'm already spending 14 hours writing for other people. Yeah, I'll just wedge that in. But he was absolutely right. He was absolutely right. Go figure. Go figure. He
That's
knew
what
more than me.
That's why he's Stephen King. So what would be the one piece of advice you would give to a up and coming, someone who wants to start writing? What doesn't matter the genre, but someone comes up to you and says, hey, I want to start writing. You've inspired me to write. What's the one piece of advice you would give them?
I usually always give this piece of advice, and it's probably just as helpful as the Stephen King one was at first, and that's don't listen to authors' advice. Honestly, because like I said earlier, we all have a different way of doing things. We all have a different way of finding success. We all have a different process. And people get so hung up on, oh, wow, I want to be Stephen King. What did he do? I'm going to try and do what he did. And when it doesn't work for them, they feel terrible, right? So it's just like, don't listen to our advice, or listen to it with a grain of salt, but find out what works for you.
Yep.
Find out what works for you, whatever that is. And the only way you can do it is write a lot and read a lot. That's the only way you can figure it out. And that's the Stephen King advice. So that's not even original. But you do need to just write a lot, just practice until you figure out, try outlining, try pantsing, try plantsing. Now there's a hybrid category of plantsing. Try plantsing. Try NaNoWriMo. Don't turn your nose up at it. Give it a shot. See how it works for you. The other piece of advice, if I had one to give that's kind of universal, and again, feel free to disregard this, everyone, is don't edit. Don't look back and edit while you're writing a first draft. As Anne Lamott said, give yourself permission to write a shitty first draft. Write your first draft without looking back, and then edit later. And that's really, really hard for a lot of authors to do. But I notice that the authors that don't do that have a very hard time finishing a project, because they eventually go like, oh, this was trash, or, oh, like, you're too critical when you're writing a first draft. And there's going to be that voice in your head that says it sucks, and that voice in your head that says no one's going to read this, and that voice in your head that says this is a waste of time. So you just have to shut all that out and tell the story. Just tell the story and edit it when you're done, not before. So that would be, and that goes for writing groups too. Like, don't let writing groups be picking apart your first draft before you're done. That would be, if I was so bold to give advice other than don't listen to our advice, it would be that. But there's going to be somebody out there that's their process and it works well. But man, I've seen the opposite lots.
Oh yeah. Once again, talking with Lee about the inner editor voice. she said, I don't know if you watched the episode, if you watched the interview with her, but she said that she writes 500 words a day because of this inner editor, you know. And I said to her, I don't have that problem. My inner editor doesn't exist.
Oh,
yeah.
Lucky.
Well, see, I said that to her, and if you continue, and if you watch the interview with her, she actually does, you know, kind of analyze me a little bit in regards to that, which was a little weird. But afterwards, I realized, hang on, I do have my inner editor, but he only shows up 2 times when I'm writing. At the start, when I'm outlining, because I do about 10 outlines. And once I get to a point where I'm like, yep, that's the story, nothing stops me from writing. And then once the first draft is finished, that's when he comes back.
Well, and that's a great time for him to come back.
Yeah, but it was just that one of those things where when I realized that the reason I hate outlining, because it always takes me so long, but that's because that's my inner editor comes up saying, no, the story is shit. That's shit. That's shit. That's shit. Instead of worrying about it while I'm writing.
Yeah, it's very handy, right? Like, that's exactly what you want when you're trying to create something, is someone telling you it's shit.
Well, I did that. I didn't. My latest book for Severed, The Valley of Bicho. It was a NaNoWriMo project, and it wasn't on. Like, I sold it to him in 2019. Didn't write basically all of last year because of personal stuff. And NaNoWriMo came out. I said, okay, I'm going to use that to get myself writing again. So I wrote 50,000 words for November. I think I actually finished it before November, before the end of November. The day after, I went, that is complete and utter shit. Chucked it, did another outline, then rewrote it, got it done in basically 1 month. And then I was happy. For any would-be writers listening, don't do that. That is not healthy to write. That's not a healthy way to write a book.
Whatever works, though, right? Whatever works. I mean, authors don't tend to be the most healthy people in the world, even though we're hearing now about taking care of ourselves more and more. I mean, look at Hemingway and people like that, right? They were at Kerouac. They were not the most healthy people in the world.
Well, see, I experienced the Hemingway diet when I first came to Mexico. First time I came here, I was here for 2 months, and I was researching for stories and getting to know people, all that sort of stuff. And I was writing what was supposed to be my first novel, but It was a very, very poor imitation of a Don Winslow book. So, it's never going to see the light of day. It's not even a trunk novel. It is just terrible. But every morning I would get up, have breakfast, grab a cigar, and start drinking rum and Coke and tequila. And basically for 2 months, I lived like Ernest Hemingway. And yeah, I got alcohol poisoning. It was really fun until the alcohol poisoning.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Mexico. You can do that. But after being told, yeah, you got alcohol poisoning, you need to stop. It was that sort of scenario of, man, Hemingway, and I didn't do it on purpose. It just happened by accident. But going, oh man, Hemingway did this on purpose. Yeah, no wonder he killed himself. It's a good experiment, but not a way to live. Not a way to live.
No, he did write in, like, it seems like all the most beautiful places I've ever been, though. There's a Hemingway used to write here. I'm like, where didn't Hemingway write? Exactly.
He didn't write in Mexico. That's true. He never came and wrote in Mexico. So that's the one thing.
I don't think he wrote in Winnipeg either. There's no landmark here that I know of where it's like Hemingway sat here.
Well, he also didn't go to Australia. Yeah, there's no stories about him visiting Australia. So
Oh, there definitely is in Italy. Definitely.
really,
Yeah. I had to go to this place in Italy called Harry's Bar, and it's where they invented the Bellini. And I love Bellinis. So I had to go, and just if anyone's curious, what we consider a Bellini in North America bears no resemblance to an actual Bellini. But I finally found Harry's Bar, and in Venice. If anyone's been to Venice, they know it's not the easiest place to navigate. Google is not your friend in Venice. It has no clue what it's doing either. You just have to kind of figure it out. And yeah, they were very big on Hemingway. Hemingway sat here. Hemingway used to frequent our place, pictures of him, the whole bit. So that was kind of a neat touch. But I've been in several places. They're just beautiful. And it's like Hemingway used to come. I'm like, wait a minute, when did the guy get any writing done?
It was probably in between the drinking, the fighting, and the screwing. It was probably in between there somewhere.
Or maybe that helped him find new avenues to drink, fight, and screw, travel the world.
Yeah. Can't get away with that nowadays. Not with social media. Imagine if Hemingway was living today, he would be in so much trouble.
Maybe he'd get off on it. Who knows? But yeah, definitely. Well, so many of those old greats, right, are being like, well, look at all the fallout with H.P. Lovecraft now.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe one day it'll happen to Stephen King in the future.
Yeah.
That's when you know we've officially gone crazy.
Well, honestly, and I hate to be the female banging the drum here, but a lot of his stuff is really misogynistic. As much as I love the guy, and I do, he does have the whole, old. And I noticed this starting to creep in maybe in the 90s. It was like older writer character. Strangely, for some reason, catches the attention of a young, nubile, beautiful woman who falls madly in love with him, but whose only purpose in the book is to stroke his ego and then get murdered in a horrible way. And I know this kept happening over and over again. Wow. I'm like, wait a minute, Steve. Wait a minute.
Well, yeah, okay, you're right. That is misogynistic. I'm not going to defend that. That is. Sounds like it's the woman in the woman in the fridge syndrome that you see in comics. Also, there's that idea that the stories a writer writes, it's their perfect world. So maybe for Stephen King, that's what he wants. He wants the ego stroking, and then that person to suddenly maybe not get murdered. Okay, my argument just fell apart.
Well, and that's what the fact when he got older, all of a sudden it was this old crusty writer who wasn't in shape, attracting these 20-something beautiful young women. I'm like, if I was your wife, I'd be very concerned right now. But I mean, I don't know if you read the Mr. Murder books,
Not yet. My TBR read pile, but they did the adaptation, didn't they?
Yes. But if you read those
Yep.
books, especially the first one, tell me what you think of the character of Jerome, because that's a very there's issues
Okay.
there too. Yeah, for sure. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
But
All right.
yeah,
I'll definitely read it, and then I'll have you come back on, and we can we can dissect it.
we can dissect the new It along those lines too, because they did something similar there. So we can just really get into it. But
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely. Well, the first one is Mr. Mercedes, right?
yes.
Okay, I'll read it, and I will definitely let you know my thoughts on the character of Jerome. Oh, I'm now intrigued.
Yeah, if someone reads that and doesn't cringe,
Hmm.
I wonder what planet they're on. It's just cringeworthy. Sorry, Steve. But it is.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he's heard worse.
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine?
Yeah, that's the thing. If I'm still trying to figure out what being called the most condescending writer means. He's probably had some doozies of reviews.
Well, I look like a robot. That's probably, I look like a robot. My smile is creepy. And I have the most boring, monotonous voice of all time. Those are three I've gotten from cruise ship killers. Isn't that nice?
Oh,
Oh, and my hair is pink too. My hair is pink. And nasty. Sorry, it's nasty and pink.
oh,
Like,
there are some bored, petty people out there.
so if I get that, I can only imagine what someone as big as Stephen King has gotten over his lifetime. I can't even, you'd have to stop reading it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't know. A lot of authors have said, yeah, never read your reviews. But sometimes you just want that ego stroke.
I don't read mine except Amazon to go on to. I keep an eye on my ranking and
Yep.
advertising and such. So I will see my Amazon reviews, which are normally good. They're normally not the nasty ones. For some reason, I find every platform has a different level of nastiness. With,
Okay.
I would say, what's the name of that one where you get books for free to review them?
NetGalley.
NetGalley, that being the nastiest.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, then Goodreads, because you can just leave 1 star. You don't have to say anything. But I find people get quite nasty on Goodreads. Like you personally hurt come into their house and beaten their dog, like that kind of level of like hatred. And not just at me. And then probably Amazon after that. So Amazon's normally not that bad, but I've noticed even with that, it just if someone says something great about me or my writing, I'm very happy. I'm very flattered. But it just kind of goes into this, ether after a while. But if someone says something nasty, I will remember it for the rest of my life. Whether I agree with them or not, whether it hurt my feelings or not, I still will remember it for the rest of my life. So I've learned that there is just no profit me reading those things. There's no profit me knowing I look like a robot with a creepy smile. There is no profit in that whatsoever, but I will remember that for the rest of my life that someone said that, and always be, do I really look like a robot? What do they even mean like that? Like what you said about the condescending. I'm like, how do I look like a robot?
Well, I can say you don't look like a robot. Your smile, okay, right there. Yes, in that moment, yes, but that's going to be the thumbnail, just so you know, for the video.
Oh, please, no, God, no.
Oh, no, don't worry. Your smile is not creepy, and you do not have a monotonous voice, and your hair does not look anywhere close to being nasty and pink. So I can 100% say those reviews are bullshit.
Well, thank you. But it's, you know what I mean, though? It just, you hear something like that, and it's so, especially the ones that are bizarre that you don't understand. They're the ones that stick with you the most because you're arguing with them in your mind, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell they meant when they said I was the most condescending writer in the planet. I'm still trying to figure that one out. That you know.
Do you use big words in your writing?
Well, this is for the very first book, which is the female spy at the beginning of a zombie apocalypse in Cuba. So there's a lot of Spanish in the book that's not translated.
Okay, that's cool.
So it could be that. It could be the fact that people who know me, like my friends and family, they read it and said, yeah, it's obvious you wrote this. I was like, okay. And they said, and my sister's husband said, well, I learned more about cigars from reading this zombie book than I ever thought. So it could be the fact that, yes, there is the zombies, but there's a lot about Cuba. There is the beginning of a chapter dedicated to Hemingway and the creation of the daiquiri. And there's a lot about cigars in there. So it could be all of that put together. And this one person was like, I just wanted zombies to kill things.
Was it a Severed book?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. I don't want to learn anything. I want dude bros. I want dude bros killing shit. Okay? That's all I want. Yeah, very much so. That was my monotonous voice, by the way. No, that definitely is it. That definitely is it. They do not want something that deviates from the formula, which is burly man with muscles and a certain political affiliation, has big guns, and kills the bad creature and gets the ladies. That's what they want. Not all Severed readers, but that very vocal, angry reviewer reader.
Probably. Well, that's the thing. When I first discovered Severed, I was looking at the covers and doing my research, and my reaction was, okay, so this is the 1980s action horror movie of publishers. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Great covers. They do such good covers. I love my cover for Dyatlov.
Oh, yeah. They do really good with the covers. And that's the thing. You know, before I even submitted to them, I really was like, okay, this is like 1980s awesome action horror stuff. This is, you know, I love that. This is my jam. I'm in. As a reader and as an author, I'm in for that.
One of the things they did that was so cool I read the story when I was, you know, a very unhappy corporate worker. Shudder. When I was still doing that, I read this great story of a fellow who got laid off. And instead of doing what I did, which is I wasn't laid off, but instead of doing, you know, what I did, taking on more freelance journalism work or, you know, taking on corporate work, he asked different publishers what they were looking for. And one of them told him a zombie series. And so he started writing a zombie series, and now he's this best-selling zombie series writer. And that's what he does for a living. And I thought, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I looked at Amazon and contacted the top horror publishers at Amazon. I think I did the top 6. And I asked them all, what are you looking for? Only one gave me an answer I could use. And that was Gary at Severed. And he said, we're looking for sea monsters. I'm like, I can do sea monsters. And Monsters in Our Wake came out, but I never would have written that book if it wasn't for Gary. So when people are like, oh, what's your process? Or I'm like, well, what did he tell me to do? You know? Like even with Return to Dyatlov Pass, he said, okay, well, before I started writing, he's like, what do you think happened? What's your theory? And I said, well, I could go this way, or I could go this way. What do you want me to think happened? And spoiler alert for anyone who wants to read the book but hasn't, he's like, Yetis do well for us. I'm like, Yetis it is, Barry. That's the way you got to do it. But if it had been me, if it had been my choice, I would have gone the whole creepy conspiracy, evil people, because I find the man's humanity to man, I find that the scariest thing ever. So I totally would have gone the whole human cause way. The Yeti thing, that was almost too easy because they're magic and shit. So you can do anything with Yetis, really. Like, no, it's so funny to me, and you've probably gotten this too. You'll write like this creature book for Severed, and someone will say something like, the dialogue was unrealistic. People don't talk like that. I'm like, the dialogue was unrealistic? We have Yetis killing everybody, and it's the dialogue you had a problem with? The Yetis? That's totally believable, but it was the dialogue. Like, yeah, I find those books so funny.
Oh no, look, the latest one, Valley of Bicho, the first review for it, literally the person was like, this book has, basically the review said, you know, this happens, and this person was saying, I want realism in my giant bug story. I think there's some people who kind of they take it too seriously.
They do. They take it very seriously. I don't want this interview to come off like I've got sour grapes. I'm bitching about my reviewers or anything. It's just so funny. It just I just, yeah, you're right. It's the dialogue that's unrealistic and the story about rampaging Yetis. You're totally right. Yeah.
Oh, it's the same as, you look at the Godzilla versus Kong movie that came out. Some people were saying, oh, the human element wasn't strong enough. And you wait. You're going to this movie to watch Godzilla beat the crap out of Kong, and Kong beat the crap out of Godzilla. The humans are never going to be the vocal point. Don't bitch and moan about that.
Yeah, I think it all goes back to Stephen King's great quote, which is, no matter what you write, someone will try and make you feel badly about it. It's so true. There's always going to be someone unhappy about anything. You just have to, that's why I say don't listen to other writers' advice. You got to do what's in your heart and mind and what you want to, or maybe in some cases what the publisher tells you will sell. I mean, I wouldn't have written about a sea monster if I didn't think, like, if there wasn't an idea I could get from that interested me. He also said kaiju, and I knew that wasn't going to be anything that I could do well. But yeah, I mean, definitely listening to someone like him when he says, hey, yeah, Yetis do well for us, it makes sense to do what he says.
Oh yeah. And if you can have fun while writing about the Yetis, it's even better.
Yeah, very much so.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Oh, no problem. I've rambled on long enough, I think.
No, I haven't hit the 3-hour mark yet on an interview, so but I did have one last question I wanted to ask you. Okay, and it is in relation to one of your blog posts for the Insecure Writer Support Group. Okay, the FIRE movement.
Ooh.
I was actually reading that while waiting for you to connect for the interview today. So how'd you okay, obviously you are no longer working corporate, you're no longer a journalist, so you are 100% writing, well, except when you need to teach. So not 100% writing, but basically you're living the dream. The FIRE movement, that helped you get there?
The FIRE movement will help me get there more.
Okay.
I honestly, I so wish I'd learned about this years ago, because I always thought that to write full time, I needed a 6-figure, 7-figure deal. No, I didn't. I just needed not to spend my damn money. I just needed to not spend what I made, right? Which seems really simple and obvious, but it's amazing how many people don't do that. Like, just don't spend, like, it's just so, especially in the city I'm living in, you will see, like, the winters are long, the winters are pretty dreary in that, and people cheer themselves up with stuff. They buy the truck, they buy the cabin, and before they know it, they can't leave because they have so much stuff that they're paying off, that they're stuck here. Thankfully I didn't get in that trap, but I mean, like, I so wish I could do a do-over, but I'm trying my best to do the right thing going forward.
Okay.
Should we say what the FIRE movement is for people that don't know?
Yeah, probably.
So FIRE stands for Financially Independent Retire Early, but it doesn't mean you retire as in the old version of, being in a wheelchair or playing golf. It means you don't have to do anything anymore. So you only do the things that light you up. You only do things you really want to do. It's freedom, basically. And the main tenet is you spend less than you make. You make as much as you can, but you spend less than you make. And it's amazing how huge a difference it can make. I mean, it's tied into minimalism sometimes. Yeah. It's tied into investing. It's tied, like, there's so many books about it. But somehow I was under a rock and I didn't hear about it nearly early enough. But yeah.
That's the thing. I know about minimalism, but I didn't hear about the FIRE movement until I read your blog post.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I'm very happy you read it then.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna look into it, because I mean, my plan is basically to make enough money to be able to live comfortably just off writing. That's the plan.
Yeah. Well, I would always recommend, if people are interested, there's a great blog, Mr. Money Mustache, which sounds very funny, but honestly, a lot of people don't like him because he's very in your face and very absolute. right? Like, if you have a job that you have to drive to, you're fucking stupid. Like he's not going to pull punches and
Okay.
sugarcoat it and make people feel comfortable. So if you have a problem with that, if you don't like Chuck Wendig's blog, you're not going to like Mr. Money Mustache.
Okay.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that because I have been fucking stupid. So I'm fine with him telling me that I'm fucking stupid. The book though, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
Oh my God. So amazing. Old book, but just mind-blowing. Like, why didn't I read that in high school? Why? I should have put one Stephen King book aside and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I could be Stephen King, well, a different version, but yeah.
Well, you could be the you version of Stephen King.
Exactly. So
Okay.
yeah, I highly recommend it. But yeah, it's been already really changed a lot of things for me.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do my research now. I'm gonna have to do my research and see if it's gonna be feasible for me. It probably is gonna be feasible. I live alone and I spend most of my money I spend on ebooks, so and alcohol.
Well, one thing that people get sucked into a trap with is Mr. Money Mustache was an engineer making six figures.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I want to start a blog, and I may already have a domain name because I've noticed that the slightly older female, not an engineer perspective is missing from FIRE. So a lot of people, it tends to be males who are engineers and white males who are engineers for whatever reason. Probably because that analytical side of their brain is crunching the numbers and figuring stuff out and going, wait a minute. So I think people make the mistake of thinking, and I've seen this a lot, oh, I don't make six figures, I couldn't do this. But that's not true. That's not true. You're already used to living on a lot less than that, I'm assuming. So you can totally make it work for you. But people see him and they go, oh, well, he was an engineer. Of course he could do this. It's like, well, there's lots of engineers who are living paycheck to paycheck too, right? It depends what you do with it. So that's the one thing I caution is don't read his stuff and think, oh, well, yeah, he was rich. So no wonder, yeah, I could do that too if I made that. Because he gets a lot of that. But he'll go through lower incomes and everything and show how it could work for you. It just matter of paring down your expenses as much as you possibly can while still having fun, spending on like minimalism, spending on things that matter to you, but not everything else.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. That sounds easy-ish.
Well, in the pandemic, I think, at least, I don't know what it was like in Mexico, but in North America, a lot of people got sucked into just buying way more than we needed, the hoarding and the, support local businesses, which is important. But I wonder how many of us went into debt or depleted savings supporting local businesses, right? Like we're all sitting at home. Amazon's very convenient. It was something to look forward to. So it's a good time to check it out, I think, is kind of like recovering from that.
Oh, yeah. Well, last year, like the way that the pandemic was weird here in Mexico, where the president of Mexico kind of followed Donald Trump's style, just of, it's not serious, it's okay, everything's fine. Then one day, oh shit, it's actually pretty bad. So we were a little late going in, and the Mexican people are very strange when it comes to their relation to what the government says. But I will say this, Amazon Mexico, they did really well off me. I bought a lot of books. See, I was investing in books for, of other authors. So, things like that. And also Uber Eats, local restaurants really did well off me.
Yeah, me as well. And I got so sucked into like every place I loved, I had to support them. I was single-handedly by myself keeping them in business, right? You get sucked into that. It's okay because I'm, it's charity. I'm helping, business I love. It's like,
it's.
And I do think that was important, just not
the be all end all.
There's moderation, right? And then there's what I did.
I'm pretty sure a lot of us did. And I think like 2020 was the party and 2021 is the buyer's remorse and a hangover.
Yes, so much. So much. I know, like even discovering this at the end of last year, I'm like, oh, if I'd only known about it in January, not even when I was in high school, but if I'd only known in January, man, it made such a difference.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the fire movement for me is going to be just the mindset change.
Yes. Oh, though, you know what it is once you have a goal that's really important to you, like you have the goal that you want to be a full-time writer,
Yep.
that is way more important to you than shit. Like you'll realize that very quickly. It's like, do you need another beer or do you want to be a full-time writer? If you're clear on your goal and it means a lot to you, it's surprisingly easy. And I can say that because I would say that I had a full-blown shopping addiction. I would. Not even like kidding. I'm sure that I did. And I got help the whole bit. But I found it was a lot easier to transition into not doing it than I thought. Just when I knew it's like, wait a minute, you mean I could have done this a long time ago if I just hadn't spent what I earned? Who knew? I know it seems so obvious, but you
Yeah,
don't think that your salary is really going to make that big a difference, right?
yeah, that's it. That's it. Um, well, see, that's part of the reason I'm going back to Australia, because living in Mexico, I don't earn enough working in Mexico to be able to, because basically half of my monthly paycheck goes to my rent off the mark. So that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
So going back to Australia, that gives me a fresh start in regards to, okay, whatever I make, it's all going towards getting me to full-time writing. So it's kind of it's hard. It's kind of like that what you're saying there about not spending, but not following fire movement. It's
Well, you never know. You might be a convert. You might read Mr. Money Mustache and join the cult just like I did. It's very
well,
tempting.
I'm positive I'm going to join the cult. I am positive I will. First time I've ever said that happily.
And you already have a mustache, so hey, there you go.
This is true.
I'll
I just
forget that, I hope.
now I just need to get the money part. But I'll go for Mr. Money Beard, not just mustache.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So that just went off the rails, didn't it?
As it does. But yeah, keep in touch if you do that, because I don't know too many people that seriously are going towards the same goal. That's seriously, and you already have my goal of living in a warm, beautiful place where the sun's
Yes.
shining.
Yes, and I'm moving to another warm, beautiful place where I will have, like, here's the great thing. My hometown, Newcastle, from where I'll be living, there are 5 beaches, and they're beautiful beaches. 20-minute drive from where I'll be living. And these 5 beaches are within walking distance of each other.
Wow.
Oh yeah. That's the one thing where I'm living right now, I'm not going to miss, because to get to the beach from Mexico City, it's like 4-hour drive.
Oh, sucks. Have you held a koala bear though? That's on my bucket list.
Okay, if you go to Sydney, there's a wildlife reserve called Featherdale Farm, and all the animals are native to Australia, and you can hold a koala. You can feed and pat kangaroos. You can all of that sort of stuff.
Snuggle wombats?
No, because the wombats are nocturnal. They don't really come out during the daytime.
Aw,
You will see them curled up sleeping in their burrows, and we call them tanks of the bush because they're pretty hard to kill. But yeah, you'll see them and all that. So yeah, there is a great place, because when you're out in the wild, kangaroos are a little bit suspicious. Koalas, here's the great thing about koalas. When you go to parks and you see koalas, they're always sleepy and lazy because they're literally high on eucalyptus leaf. There's an enzyme that gets them high. Out in the wild, they're more active because they have to be to avoid predators. And they're a little bit more territorial. And when koalas get agitated, they make this very deep, thunderous grunting sound that sounds like a demon coming. It's really scary coming from the cute bear. So out in the wild, it's a little bit more dangerous. But as I said, Featherdale Farm in Sydney, you can hug a koala. You can pat and feed kangaroos. You can do all that sort of stuff.
Have you done it? Have you hugged a koala?
Oh yes.
Whoa.
Oh yes. I've done that. I've taken photos with kangaroos. I've done the whole bit. And I mean, even in primary school and high school, you know, crocodiles, spiders, the lizards we get in Australia, all that, you could learn about those in school. In primary school, you get to handle them and all that. So, oh yeah, we're all basically kind of taught to be like, you know, probationary crocodile hunters. You know, we're kind of given that sort of mentality in school to, you know, don't be afraid of it, respect it, and you'll be fine.
Nice. You're living my dream.
Go to Australia, you can do it.
I will. It's been on my bucket list forever.
Well, whenever you do that, let me know, and I'm happy to, you know, because I don't know if I'm ever going to move from Australia when I go back. So, you know, I can be a tour guide and I can tell you where to visit and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, thank you. I'll totally take you up on that.
Yeah, seriously. You know, I'm always happy to do that sort of stuff. I tell my students that too. I've told other authors as well.
Because it's a tour guide. There's your fire plan.
There we go. Author tour guide. There we go. just you guys, all the authors need the excuses now to go to Australia.
Oh, I'm sure lots of people do. It's like on so many people's bucket lists.
Surprisingly, yeah. It's amazing how many, like, not even just Mexicans, but other authors all of them have said, "Oh yeah, I want to visit Australia." And I kind of, is there a conspiracy that authors want to go to Australia to make sure it's real? You know,
the Great Barrier Reef and the Outback, and I mean, there's so many, like, just amazing. It's so big, is what I think people don't realize. Everyone thinks it's little because of what it looks like on a globe, but it's huge.
Oh yeah, it's massive. And I mean, the population of Australia is about 20 odd million people. We don't take up even a third of the country. We only occupy a very small area of it.
What are your feelings on Ivan Milat and what he did for tourism? Cruise ship killers, right? I gotta ask.
Yeah, no. Totally get it. Well, I mean, there's always going to be psychopaths. There's always going to be people who do shit like that. And the thing about Ivan Milat was, it did give us Wolf Creek.
Yes. I've got a blog about that, the true story behind that movie.
Oh, I'll have to check it out. That's the thing. And it was tragic what happened, you know, horrific, you know. And it's one of those things, whenever anyone from another country brings it up with me, I always kind of have this moment of, oh shit, that's right. That was a worldwide thing. Everyone knows about Ivan Milat, because for most Australians, we kind of go, oh yeah, Ivan Milat, he was that lunatic or whatever.
Well, it's like every traveler's worst nightmare, right? Did he actually do the thing where he disabled people's cars, or was that? Yeah, he did, right?
No, he would disable them, and yeah. Oh yeah, the backpack killer. Yeah, that's the thing. When you think about the outback of Australia, you kind of don't fully realize exactly how in the middle of nowhere you actually are, and how if you meet the wrong person, yeah, you're in Wolf Creek territory very easily. I'm honestly surprised there aren't more horror stories or horror movies with that.
Yeah, very creepy. Just the idea of that. It just kind of like Hostel too, though Hostel wasn't real, but that idea that, you know, you're on a great vacation. Everyone thinks Australia's a super safe place to go backpacking, and then that happens to you. So.
Oh yeah, but even like going from Sydney to Perth, so from the east coast to the west coast, okay, you got to drive across what's called the Nullarbor Plain, and I'm not joking. You drive across the Nullarbor Plain, you look out either way of your car. You know what you see? Literally nothing. It is a barren wasteland of nothing.
Sand?
You'll see just brown earth, maybe some dead trees, and then heat waves from, you know, the rays, you know, you'll see that. And the thing about and because there is nothing there are accidents. People fall asleep.
Oh no.
Because if there's nothing to look at as you're driving, you get bored. Even listening to music, audiobooks, talking to the people in the car, if it doesn't help, because you know, you're just doing 110, 120 kilometers per hour through nothingness. So the government built in harsh turns and twists into the road so people would stay awake.
No wombats even?
You might see dead animal carcasses, but you will not see a living thing.
Wow, that's creepy.
It's the perfect setting. See, Australia's ripe for horror books and no one really writes them.
Except for Alan Baxter.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, that
The
bastard.
Room.
He's got the market cornered on Australian horror. Well, and Aaron Dries as well is slowly getting up there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's another Sam Hain. From my old publisher.
Yep, that's the thing. The Aussie horror, we're beginning to make an impact.
That's awesome. Well, there's always room, right? I don't
yeah.
think it's really done too much Canadian stuff either.
No, I don't think so either. Pay attention.
Sophie has made her appearance. So you mentioned dogs. I don't know your feelings on cats.
Oh, I lived with 2 cats. I like cats. I prefer dogs, but I do have a soft spot for cats.
Well, that's good. Not that she can hurt you from this distance. Right?
Oh no, but she looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Nobody's got a resting bitch face like the Fuzz, though.
I think cats invented it.
Well, she really does. I don't know if she'll show it or not. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yep.
Doesn't she just look like she just can't be bothered with anybody?
Yep.
And she's totally fine. She's not unhappy, but she just has that death stare, like disdain and revulsion almost.
Oh yeah. That's the thing. They have that look, but they're also, they've got the look, but they are the sweetest animals.
They are, yeah, just big puffballs.
Yes.
In Australia would be a tough move for me, like the however long flight that would be.
Well, from here to Australia, it's okay. The longest I've ever done from Mexico City to Australia was about 30 hours, but that was because I had a 10-hour layover. But the general time is usually like 20, like maybe 25, 26 hours, because you've got to go from here to the US and then US to Australia. So, but from Canada, you can do a direct flight, so it should be shorter.
Yeah, sure. It's only like 15 or 17 hours. Woo-hoo.
Hey, look, trust me. I've done that flight multiple times. I'm okay with it because I'm that sort of weirdo. I can sleep in any situation. I've slept through earthquakes here.
Wow.
So, I'll take a shorter flight going back to Australia.
I'm just thinking of the Fuzz and her friends. I don't like that flight.
Yeah, that will be the one problem. But I'm pretty sure going to any country, it is going to be a problem with them for traveling.
Yeah, for sure. I hear there's good drugs, and I mean good veterinary food.
Yes.
Not anything illicit. Well, yes.
Oh, I think she definitely is saying, okay, interview's over, pay attention to me now.
At least she hasn't shown you her assets, which
Oh, if that happens,
her fire plan.
If she does that, then that's definitely the thumbnail for the video.
Yeah, way better than.
Come on, it won't be the most embarrassing photo of you out there, is it?
I like the one of Lee. I like the one you said. The screen capture of her was really nice.
Oh, yeah.
Thumbnail could be you. That'd be awesome.
I've got when I'm going through and editing and uploading, that's when I'll pick the screenshot. And the screenshot will never be 100% me because this is all about you, not me.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, the spotlight's on you.
Literally.
Yeah, I've got one too. I mean, see.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it's for the day job. I have a green screen that has so I can do a professional background for the company I work for. I've got to have the spotlight. So doing the interviews, I've already got the setup.
Wow, nice. That's above and beyond. I do not have a green screen, but that could be fun.
Yeah, honestly, I was tempted to play around with the idea of putting in dripping blood behind me or something like that for the interviews. And I thought, no, that could be too gimmicky.
You can have people's books up, or I love these Zoom backgrounds where it's like when people who aren't in the know, like You have such a lovely house, and then they move too fast and they go, they all quickly. Like, wait a minute. I'm in an anthology and they did it so everybody's living room had pictures of the book cover framed above their fake fireplaces. And it honestly looked real, but it's just like, wait a minute, that's a Zoom background. But yeah,
Well,
they're getting so sophisticated with
I might do that. I might put the green screen up, do the fireplace, make myself look really fancy. Because with the green
The
screen,
neighbors are quiet today anyways. I noticed in the Tim interview they weren't, but they are today. I don't hear
well,
them.
okay, right now it's they call it Holy Week. It's basically Easter here, and my noisy and I have a set of neighbors that live one floor below me and across the way. Now I'm living in an ancient building, so soundproofing doesn't exist.
Oh,
So when
no.
they play music, yeah, you can hear it crystal clear, and they play it real fucking loud. So because it's Holy Week and Christianity is very big here in Mexico, they've been awfully quiet the past couple of days. So either they're respecting it, they've gone away, or they're dead.
Or they're at church.
Not all day, and not for the past 3 days. They would have to come home.
Hmm.
So it's either they're being respectful, they've gone away, or they're dead. Those are the three I can pick.
You could just say that a little louder and maybe you'll get an answer.
Luckily, they don't speak English.
Ah, is
Yeah.
that, are there not too many people that speak English there?
No, there are, but like when I first moved in to my building, all the neighbors were like, "There's a white guy living here. There's a foreigner living here. He's living in our building. This is a shithole. Why is he living here? He's a foreigner. He should have lots of money. He can go live in a nice building. Why the hell is he here?" It was that sort of reaction. And some of them talk to me and they're very understanding about my limited Spanish, and they're fine with that. But go basically like 2 minutes away from my, like couple minutes, 2 minutes walk from here, you go to a donut shop. The owners of this donut shop, they speak English. So it's one of those things where it's surprising when you meet someone and they start talking to you in English. Like,
Yeah. Okay.
oh yeah, this annoys the shit out of me. I go to a restaurant and I pre-plan what I'm going to say in Spanish, which sounds really sad. But thank you. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to order this. So how do I practicing what I'm going to say? Person comes up, sees this, and they want to practice their English. So they start talking to me in English, and my brain just goes, no, 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 you're confusing me. I'm in your country. I'm in Mexico. I'm here to learn and speak Spanish. Don't talk to me in my language. I want to speak to you in yours. So then and instead of trying to force them to speak Spanish, I just give up and go in English. But I speak a little faster than normal, which annoys them. So they switch to Spanish. So then I win.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's a great country. It's a great country. You should at least come and visit Mexico.
I've gone to the Mayan Riviera before.
Okay.
It wasn't really a realistic look.
No, if you want to go for realistic, okay, Mexico City, that's as real as you can get. But Guanajuato, not just for the mummies, but that's like, it is a bit of a touristy town, but it's a good touristy town that you do get to see real Mexico as well.
Okay.
Puebla, that's a good town. Querétaro, which is a relatively big town, and Guadalajara. And Guadalajara is really good because it's like a smaller version of Mexico City, and you're in tequila country.
Wow. That could be dangerous.
Good, dangerous.
You're Australian. You can say that. Your blood's probably 100 proof. Not all of us are like that.
True. And I have more advantages because my dad's family is Irish. My mum's family is from Sweden. So Australian Irish Viking.
Oh, wow. And I'm a Scottish Viking, Scottish Canadian Viking, I guess.
Well, I know some Canadians who can drink pretty well. So, you shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, I'm Norwegian, Swedish, and Scottish.
That'll do the trick.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, pretty sure we've definitely hit the over 2 hour mark. I'm happy to keep going if you want to, but
No, that's all right. You've done your time.
actually, I don't think I
to do.
No, I actually don't think of this as like doing my time. I'm happy to do this. This is actually the reason I'm doing it, is so I get to meet other authors. I get to, have a chat. This is all fun. I'm enjoying this. This is another part of it that we don't really get to do, which is just see two authors talk.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true.
Yeah. That's why I try to make this as conversation instead of saying, okay, here's my list of questions.
Yeah, that never works out well, I find.
It's
As a journalist too, it's like I never had questions. People would ask me for a list of questions, and I'm like,
no.
make one up if you want, but
Well, that's it. I have maybe 6 or 7 stock questions I would ask everyone, but then usually when I'm doing the research about each author I'm going to talk to, it's like, okay, oh, that's interesting. Oh, didn't know about that. I'm going to follow up on this, that sort of thing.
yeah, and you definitely did your research, so that's impressive.
Oh yeah. Well, right now I'm not working the day job, so it's between writing the next novel and figuring out, okay, doing all the research for the interview. So yeah, I got time to spend on really digging in there and finding the embarrassing secrets. Thank you so much for being on, JH.
No problem.
um,
Thank you for having me.
oh, love to have you come back on. This was fun.
Yeah, anytime.
Great. I'll if you got anything coming out in the near future, I'm happy to have you come on and you can just promote all that. I've got no problem with that. You can use this to pimp your shit.
The restoration in October.
Okay, I'll make sure to have you. I'll make sure to get you on here for either the release or just after it's come out. I've got no problem doing that.
No pressure at all.
No, honestly, I'm more than happy. Honestly, knowing I can have certain authors lined up for the future makes it easier.
I'll have a book out.
True, true. So just before we finish, where can all the wonderful people watching this, where can they find you? Or if you want to be found?
I don't.
Okay then.
No, probably my website's the easiest, jhmoncrieff.com. But I also have an author page on Facebook. I'm on the Twitter. I'm on the Instagram. Probably Facebook. I'm the most active on my author page there, so that's a good place to find.
Okay, I'll throw the links for your Amazon page, your website, and your Facebook page. I'll throw them into the description below.
Thank you.
Oh no, my pleasure. And once again, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Thank you so much for asking me.
Oh, it was so nice that you said yes. I honestly, anytime someone says yes, I get really surprised.
Oh no, have you ever had a no?
Not yet.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I kind of realized with everyone saying yes, I kind of realized, oh yeah, that's right. Us authors, we're a promotion horse.
And it's something different to do, and it's fun, and we're all stuck at home, right?
Exactly. And nearly every author I've approached, some of them I do know and have a pre-established relationship. Others, like with yourself, is kind of out of the blue, and it's great.
I'm assuming you found me through Lee, I'm guessing.
Beg your pardon?
I'm assuming you found me through Lee, I'm guessing.
Well, it was funny because after I did the interview for her, we continued talking, and she asked me who's on my list of people to interview, and I was going down the list, and she said, "Okay, well, I don't know him, but I know that person, so you can use my name contacting them." And then she went, "Oh, try," and she just rattled off a bunch of people, and you're at the top of the list, and I was like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, try all of them." And she said, "Use my name." use my name, and they'll, the worst they can say is no. And I was just like, awesome.
She's like the nicest person. She's so kind.
Yeah, it's amazing how kind she is. No one should be that kind.
Especially in this industry, right? It's not expected, but yeah, she definitely is very much so.
Oh yeah, she's the real deal. So once again, thank you so much. And once again, a very big thanks to J.H. Moncrieff for coming on and having a chat with us. If you like the video, please like, share, all the usual jazz, and if you are so inclined, please subscribe to the channel and tick the little bell so you get all the notifications whenever I upload a new interview or any other types of videos. And once again, if you have any authors you would like to see me chat with, please put it in the comments or reach out to me. If you want to follow JH or you want to buy any of her books, links are all in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.